Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another Genealogy with Jesse. This week, we will be exploring the paternal side of Waldemar Bruce Nelson, also known as Herbert Stanley Johnston Jr. Digging into the tree here, this is Herbert Stanley Johnston, Wally's father, biological father, born in 1903, just before Christmas. Let's get going. So in 1910, we have the federal census here. His three older sisters, Irene, Luella, and Leone. We have Herbert Stanley here at 6 years old, obviously single and no employment. But fast forward to 10 years later, 1920, Herbert, son of Andrew Carson, debatable. We'll get into that at another date. And Anna Sophie Swanson. Um, William Wallace was also Wally's father's brother, served in the First World War, I believe. I have some records of that. So this would have been a few years after he actually got out of or got back from Europe. I can't remember which battles he was involved with, but I'll again do that at a later date. But in 1920, living here in Minneapolis with his oldest brother, William, sister Irene, Luella, and Leona. Here's Herbert Stanley, the son. He's 16 years old. If you scroll over here, he is employed at 16 years old at as a packer at a candy company. I believe I have a census record, sorry, a city directory, Minneapolis city directory that does back that up somewhere. Here's 1919. Herbert Stanley is located at 3715 22nd Avenue South, South Minneapolis. Um, this is what that house looks like today, or the last time Google updated it. Still standing. 1922, he is a boarder at 3731 22nd Avenue. That's also that house. I'm going to jump back to his tree here real quick. He does get married to Elizabeth Ellen Yatta in 1921. So we can assume that they were together at that point here in this house right here. As boarders, they had two children at that point. Wally wasn't around yet, as he was born in 1925. In 1923, Herbert is a cement worker living on Nicollet Avenue, still a boarder. That's what that B means. We can assume that there was some sort of tenement housing here. This is how it looks today. But there could have been some sort of tenement housing if he was a boarder, maybe multi-family type house. 1923 is still a cement worker, boarding, lives on Nicollet Avenue. Um, oh, I don't think I have that. Maybe I do. Nope, I don't have that address right here right now. My apologies. In 1924, living at 25 18 26 Avenue South, again, South Minneapolis. There must have been houses here. Now it's all a commercial development, it looks like. Um, some sort of reconstruction, storage, blah, 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 blah. In 1927, he's a helper. This would be after he has split up. Right around here, he's still with Wally's mother, Elizabeth Ellen, but right around here in 1927, he is divorced from her, living at 3815. The interesting thing is he's a resident here, um, listed as a helper. Not sure where he works, but he is a resident. And if you look back at family tree records, he's actually living back at home with his father Andrew Johnston and his mother Anna Sophie. That's going to be another episode next week. We're going to talk about Herbert Stanley's parents. But this is where he's living. This is my favorite house, personally. Still standing there in South Minneapolis. Um, Moves to Portland Avenue in 1928. He's an attendant. Here's Portland Avenue. This was all developed. I'm going to scroll out just a little bit. That 35W 94 interchange, all of this freeway system eliminated a lot of the neighborhoods that actually existed here. So no records of that. In fact, this is where Wally lived, or sorry, not not Wally, but this is where Herbert Stanley lived. It's now an overpass. In 1933, I'm not sure if this is actually the real Herbert, but we do have him as an employee, the O'Donnell Malcolmson Motor Company. There's no residence listed as to where he's at. Um, so Herbert Stanley, a little bit of a mystery. He does actually die in 1969. We do have, I don't know if I have it on me on here. We do have his headstone, I believe. Let me check real quick here. Can't find it. I believe there is a headstone, and it's at the Lakewood Cemetery in Minneapolis. So we know that he dies in Minneapolis. But from about 1933, the last residence that he had, or employee, and actually the actual last real evidence that I have of him in Minneapolis is 1928. From that time until his death in 1969, we don't really know where he is. So a little bit more investigation on Herbert Stanley, what he was doing. Sounds like he was just kind of a blue collar trade worker. Jumped around a lot of different residences. Um, had the three kids with Elizabeth and Ellen Yatta. Unfortunately, lost those three kids. Um, they were all three put into foster care, and Wally was unfortunately adopted out prior to his mother, Elizabeth Ellen, getting custody back. So, a few holes in this story, but I'll leave you, as always, with a picture of Herbert Stanley Johnston. We don't really have any other photos apart from this. This actually came from his sister's wife, in fact, Lois Lundgren. But this is Herbert Stanley Johnston in, I would assume, 1912, 1915. Wearing the Knickerbockers, you can only assume that that was the style of the time. But a strapping young lad. Looks a lot like some of our um, family members. I see a lot of Alex, Bill, Wes, Bruce, Wally. I don't know. You be the judge. That's Herbert Stanley Johnson. I appreciate you guys tuning in for another genealogy with Jesse. I will get another video out to you next week. Love you all and have a great evening.